Thank you for tuning in. Today we're exploring a case that delves into procedural fairness, local government policies, and the rights of elected officials amid the COVID-19 pandemic. This is an AI summary of the PDF of Abbott versus the Town Council of Musgrave Harbour and the ruling by Justice Glen Noel, a case that concluded with Grant Abbott being reinstated to his town council seat after being dismissed for not attending meetings, despite his attempts to participate remotely. In the quaint town of Musgrave Harbour, Newfoundland, Grant Abbott was elected to the town council in September 2021. By early 2022, Abbott faced a significant issue. The council had to navigate the challenges of holding meetings during the ongoing pandemic, which led them to pass a policy requiring that all councillors be fully vaccinated to attend in person. Here's where things got complicated. Abbott was unvaccinated. Despite this, he still attempted to participate in council meetings remotely through video calls and emails. But the town council wouldn't recognize his remote attendance as valid. Soon, Abbott was accused of missing 3 consecutive meetings, and according to Section 206(1)(f)(2) of the Municipalities Act 1999, his seat was declared vacant. Abbott wasn't going to accept this decision without a fight. He appealed, claiming that the council had been unfair in ignoring his request to participate remotely. According to Abbott, the council should have found a way to accommodate him, given the extraordinary circumstances surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic. The council, however, saw it differently. They argued that Abbott's failure to physically attend 3 consecutive meetings automatically triggered the provision in the Municipalities Act, which meant that his seat was vacated. For the council, this was a matter of strict statutory interpretation. They believed the law was clear. Missing 3 meetings without attending in person meant that Abbott's seat should be vacated. The court, led by Justice Glen Noel, disagreed with the town's approach. Justice Noel highlighted that the council had not followed the principles of procedural fairness. In his decision, he emphasized that the main issue wasn't Abbott missing meetings, but the council's failure to respond to Abbott's leave request. The judge noted that before the Municipalities Act could be used to vacate Abbott's seat, the council needed to decide on his leave request, a step they neglected. Justice Noel stated, "Council must therefore strictly comply with the true intent of the statutory provision before the provision operates. This means the council had to address Abbott's request before declaring his seat vacant. Their failure to do so made their actions procedurally unfair." Justice Noel criticized the council's inaction, stating that the consequence of vacating a councillor's seat is a serious deprivation of a resident's right to participate in local government and democracy. This remark underscores the gravity of the council's actions, noting that, in Frank Butt versus Carboneer, Justice Robert Stack aptly described the vacating of a councillor's seat as close to capital punishment in the world of municipal politics. The court discovered that the council had a history of approving leave of absence requests. For instance, just a month before Abbott's removal, the mayor was granted leave for personal reasons, and the council formally approved it. So why was Abbott treated differently? Justice Noel emphasized that what council did not have the authority to do is completely fetter discretion and not make a decision on Abbott's request. When the statute gives a municipality the authority to make a decision and when specifically asked to do so, it must perform its duty. The court also considered Abbott's ongoing efforts to attend meetings remotely. The council contended that their policies barred remote participation for unvaccinated councillors, but Justice Noel noted that Abbott's remote attendance did not mean he had neglected his duties. This indicates that even though the town council had a policy requiring in-person attendance, their failure to formally address Abbott's request for remote participation contributed to procedural unfairness. Justice Noel elaborated further, it would lead to an absurd interpretation of the act to permit the vacation of a councillor's seat through mere inadvertence on the part of council. By way of example, a councillor making a legitimate request for medical reasons to be exempt from the 3-month prescribed period would have their seat vacated if council through inadvertence failed to put the request on the agenda of council and decide on the request. Surely the legislature could not have intended that to be the result of mere inadvertence on the part of council. Just as inadvertence cannot engage the automatic seat vacation, neither can ignoring Abbott's request for whatever reason. In essence, the council's inaction on Abbott's request wasn't just a mistake, it was a breach of his right to fair treatment as an elected official. Justice Noel refrained from making broad judgments about the town's COVID-19 vaccination policy, instead concentrating on the specific issue of whether Abbott's request for leave had been properly considered. Justice Noel continued, "It is noteworthy that all NL government special orders were repealed in March 2022 and before Abbott missed 3 successive months of regular meetings of council. Since there was no motion or discussion on the motion, the court is not in a position to evaluate the particular context and apply a deferential standard on a decision or administrative action that the council never took. In other words, the court could not rule on the broader policies because the council had failed to adhere to its own procedures. The court also acknowledged that the policies adopted during the pandemic were intended to ensure public safety, but that didn't absolve the council of their responsibility to provide procedural fairness." Justice Noel wrote, "The requirements of procedural fairness must be flexible and context-specific. The Supreme Court found that guidance must be taken from the particular statute, as well as the following factors: the nature of the decision being made and process followed in making it, the nature of the statutory scheme and the terms of the statute pursuant to which the body operates, the importance of the decision to the individual or individuals affected, the legitimate expectations of the person challenging the decision, and the choices of procedure made by the agency itself." Justice Noel recognized the complexity of the situation, but emphasized that fairness and due process are essential, especially when dealing with democratically elected officials. Ultimately, the court reinstated Abbott to his position on the town council. The judgment was unequivocal. The council's mishandling of Abbott's request breached the principles of procedural fairness. Abbott's appeal succeeded, and the court granted impartial costs for the legal proceedings. However, Justice Noel did not award full indemnity costs, emphasizing that while the council misinterpreted the statute, their actions were not egregious, scandalous, or outrageous. The judge highlighted that the councilors, many of whom were volunteers, were striving to serve their community during challenging times. Nevertheless, their procedural missteps resulted in a significant violation of Abbott's rights, leading the court to rule in his favor. What insights can we draw from this case? Firstly, procedural fairness is a fundamental pillar of our legal system, regardless of the situation. Grant Abbott's fight was not just about attending meetings remotely, it was about ensuring his rights as an elected representative were upheld. As Justice Noel emphasized, councils must adhere strictly to the law when it comes to vacating an elected official's seat. Ignoring due process can have significant repercussions, affecting not only the individuals involved but also the integrity of local governance. This case underscores the importance of maintaining fundamental principles like fairness, transparency, and democracy, even in challenging times. Thank you for watching. God bless and keep up the good fight.